Greetings YouTube, the author Mark Simmons here, back for fourth instalment of my readings from the Psionic Powers Trilogy. In this episode I'll be reading a snippet from chapter 6 of my debut novel of the night. In the story so far, the protagonist has had to come to terms with being made immortal. It's kind of been forced upon him, he didn't really have a choice. And in the scene I'm about to read, he is being introduced to the elders of the society, the underworld society that these immortals live in. Of the Night is available on Amazon via Poe Boy Publishing. As always, I've not rehearsed this, which will be interesting because there's quite a lot of dialogue in this one. So this is from chapter 6, which is called Introductions. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Although his English was first rate, he couldn't hide the Eastern European in his tone. Thank you all for attending, and I hope you all bring good tidings. There was no emotion or any sense of genuine interest in what he was saying, more that he was reciting a speech that had been said many times. He took 4 steps to the stage right so that the throne was the centre point and not he. As you all know, I am Nicolae Antonescu, head of the High Council. Lord Chief Justice Charles Yorkton and High Council Secretary Claire Campus are also residing. I give you our Prince Regent, the Baroness Elizabeth Blackmore. A tall image emerged from the backstage gloom, melding with the shadows at first, before pulling away from the curtains of obfuscation and out into the house lights. A thin skeletal form barely filled the black hooded cloak wrapped around her. She dragged the long tails of her outfit behind her. Pale white skin gleamed from amongst the dark robes, as with 2 swift steps she had leapt through the air and landed on the left shoulder branches of her carved throne. In another sudden move, her legs swung round, vaulting over the top of the throne before gracefully dropping down onto the seat, legs crossed and head bowed. The silence that filled the room screamed in Whitfield's ears as she sat, her cloak consuming all of her form. After a time, her head rose up, her chin the only visible part of her through the robes. The ruler's head moved ever so slightly, and with her hidden eyes she surveyed the gathered crowd. The strange creature's gaze moved around the room for a number of minutes, her head swaying to and fro on its thin neck. Whitfield felt the solid form of Crass become even firmer as his shoulders tensed next to him. And he wasn't sure, but there may have been tension in the shoulders of the unshakable woman sat at his other side. All thoughts left him as the Baroness stopped and leant forward towards Whitfield. A dry grey tongue rolled over her thin lips, and a cruel smile broke out across what little of her face he could see. Could be seen. Newborn. A bare whisper crept from her cracked lips, yet there was no mistaking the fact that everyone in the auditorium had heard her quiet words, and from the recesses of her clothes her right hand raised up, beckoning Whitfield forward. Looking to his left and then right for any sort of support, he found all eyes fixed on the figure perched upon her seat of state. Whitfield gave up on the faces closest to him and rose out of his chair, smoothed down his shirt nervously and slowly started to approach the stage. A small flight of 6 steps led up to the middle of the platform. Handrails ascended on either side, which he gladly held onto as his nerves danced around inside him. As he reached the 3rd step, a hand raised further into the air, signalling him to cease. "State your name," Nicolae announced, his voice startling Whitfield as it bounced around the theatre. "Whitfield," he replied without thinking. "Give me thy family name, newborn," she added from her perch, fingers opening and closing in her outstretched palm. Whitfield was taken aback by the odd delivery of her words. Firstly, he looked towards Nicolae, but he just stared back at him, awaiting his answer. He then turned back to the group that had brought him here, but he met a stone wall of blank expressions, eyes fixed on the creature that was their monarch. They gave him nothing. In a confused state, he couldn't remember his own surname. Turning back to the throne, he met that same cruel smile, but this time it was within breathing distance, her face inches from his as her robes draped down around him, catching on the handrails either side of the steps. "Give me thy family name, newborn," she repeated with the same eloquence, but with the added softness of her mother instructing the child. Her left hand reached forward and gave his cheek a tender stroke. Whitfield Creedy replied, in as strong a voice as he could, but the words sounded broken and weak in his ears. Her robes had fallen in a way that they had managed to block out all of the house lights, and she balanced on one leg on each banister. Her left knee bent as she leant forward. Her long, thin body was naked under her one layer of clothing. Pale skin seemed to illuminate the interior of what felt like a creature's lair. "What bringeth thee to mine court?" She leant closer to him, her left hand sliding down under his chin and her tongue darting in and out from between her teeth, tasting his breath. "Well, it's like this, Liz." Whitfield paused as he realised his possible mistake. Was his mouth about to once again get him in trouble? Frozen with fear, he looked into her eyes, waiting for her to strike, but she did not. "May I call you Liz?" A sudden glimpse of humanity returned to her dead eyes, past memories being processed for the first time in centuries, forming behind her empty stare, and with a smile of genuine happiness, the corners of her mouth crept up. "Liz." She tilted her head in consideration, distant thoughts once again clouding her eyes, and when they focused on him once more, her smile widened. "That would please me." Just as suddenly the smile vanished and only the empty old features remained. "But only at which hour 'tis thee and I," she ordered, moving yet closer to him, her nose pressing into his left eye socket. "Now, telleth me thy blessings." There you go. Just a little snippet of chapter 6. Elizabeth Blackmore, the Baroness. She's basically the monarch of the sort of society that I've created. And once again, Of the Night, available from Poe Boy Publishing on Amazon. The links will be in the description, along with my links to my Facebook author page, my Twitter page, my Instagram page, and check them out. Check me out. Check this out. I'll see you on the next time.